She knows I'm
I
right.
got my frustration out though.
So you just want them attached appropriately.
Yeah, but they're not going back.
No.
Just keep that to
Okay.
yourself.
Not saying a word. I don't
No,
care
I'm
one way or
not
the other.
asking anymore.
They're old, they're outdated, and
Another couple minutes and we can start.
have a new little pictures that we have up in our office.
Or you can start on a new leaf and start early as they can be.
Oh, no, I
But
got
we
yelled
might
at for
just
trying to
have
do that
trained,
once when
like-
you weren't here.
Welcome.
I tried that, Kevin. Oh, no. No,
Right.
not
Or
happening.
there's a unique logo in the back of the auditorium that could be put here. It's not a logo, but it's an old piece that must have been in the auditorium. It's made out of tin. It's like 3D outline of the county. Yeah, and I think Gary Hammond's folks can like spray it and make it look real again and investigate it.
That would be nice.
We've got posters upstairs if you want. Yeah. 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 We also have network in the hallway.
You have to say it's close.
Yeah.
Mm.
Oh, can you miss
Don't
it?
make it open.
It's gonna be on the wall.
It's beautiful.
That was off Iowa State Bank.
Oh,
Over
oh,
there.
Longer.
It's time.
It is time.
Cash, we're going. We're going. As soon as you give me the heads up. Thumbs up.
How's Waverly down there?
Good. We're still hanging in there.
All right.
Still part of Tioga County. We haven't slipped off into Chemung yet.
Or Bradford.
Or Bradford.
We're all set? Alrighty. This is the March 4th meeting of the Tioga County Industrial Development Agency 2020. It's our regular monthly meeting. We will begin with the roll call.
Jen Ciccarelli,
Here.
Kevin Gillette,
Here.
Aaron Gowan,
Here.
Tracy Manell,
Here.
Marty Sapper here, John Ward,
Here.
Eric Moss.
Here.
And for guests today, we have George Lohman, Keith Flesher, Mr. Hartwig, I apologize, what's your first name? Skip, thank you. And we'll have Wendy Walsh and Matt Reed.
I think we can begin with you gentlemen, if you'd like to start.
Sure, thank you.
Thank you.
So my name is Keith Flesher. I'm the supervisor for the town of Berkshire. And we're here today to talk about a project that we have in the works involving the railroad track, TCIDA, and the Weaver Hartford Railroad. But real quick, a little bit of background for the town. I've been supervisor about 2 years, but prior to me becoming involved with Berkshire, there's been a lot of progress. The town has really been growing and trying to not only revitalize, but become, to offer more services to our residents for the money that they're already paying in taxes without really creating any additional cost or burden to them. There's a community hall that was renovated over a 15-year period that's used virtually every day of the year for different community organizations and governmental functions. We have a new fire station, a new Dollar General. We recently revitalized our one of our parks and ball field with new dugouts and actually getting the grass out of the infield so it looks like a baseball field. And those efforts paid off. We're going to have all the Northern Tioga Youth League baseball games in Berkshire this year. So we're pretty proud of that. So some of the projects we have in the works right now is we're working for a TAP grant to extend some sidewalks down to the Dollar General and the post office to get more accessibility to the store to some of the residents inside the hamlet. We recently created a promotional video that talks about all the progress over the last few years that we can include with all of our grant applications, and we presented it to Senator Akshar and some other organizations. And also the park that's up on the screen right now, and we also have the map here that we're trying to develop on property that the town owns by the town hall. And again, what the town is hopeful for is what we're trying to accomplish is to provide somewhere where the citizens of the town can have access to some of the outdoor activities that they might not have access to without having to travel maybe down to Owego or over to Endicott. A couple pavilions, a place to have a barbecue, maybe there can be birthday parties, family reunions, graduation parties, weddings, things of that nature. Very similar to the trout ponds in North Valley, where they have facilities available for people to use. And again, we're looking to create this atmosphere, provide these services, primarily through grant monies, donations, things of that nature. We don't want to increase the tax burden on our residents, which everybody here knows is already really high, but also provide services that they can utilize and enjoy. So unless I missed anything, George or Skip?
The reason we're here.
Yeah, so I don't know, moving forward, Leanne, I don't know if you were gonna make the presentation or if we're gonna have a dialogue, or if I should just address what our concern
Yep,
is.
yeah, I should just
Okay.
continue, and then if anybody has questions.
So we've been planning this project for a couple of years, and I'm gonna confess, this parcel of land is across the railroad tracks, between the railroad tracks and the Owego Creek on the other side of the town hall. So through all this planning that I've been involved in, it never once occurred to me that we were gonna have an issue or a challenge with the tracks and being able to cross. And it just was brought to my attention here very recently. So what we're trying to do is we want to try to be able to move forward with the project now that we understand these challenges, and now that we know that we have partners that we have to work with through the IDA and the Owego Hartford Railroad, is try to come up with the best possible solution for all parties involved. Taking into account obviously liability, cost, but also the desire for the town to be able to provide for its residents. And again, just come to the whatever solution or solutions that we can together, so that everybody feels comfortable and that we can move forward with the project.
Okay, so that being said, we did have Joe Mayer take a look at our railroad operating agreement. And basically what he came back to me was, bottom line is, this board should look for input from Steve May on what he feels the impact would be toward his running the business of running the railroad, and any other issues he may have with that. So that being said, I reached out to Steve, and he did indicate that I did share with the railroad committee what I have found. Basically, what Steve May's response was, he is no opposition to granting access by way of the railroad tracks to this park area. There are a couple of conditions that he put on that. One would be the town would be responsible for making whatever improvements to the railroad crossing would be required to use it in this way. That the town would agree that they would continue to maintain that crossing, that the ongoing maintenance would not fall on the IDA or Owego Hartford, and that the town provide a letter requesting that the crossing be changed from a private crossing to a public crossing. So at this time right now, it is a private crossing with public access, whatever that means. Yeah, so basically the public can have access to it, can use it, but it is designated as a private crossing. So there was some ambiguity, I think, or some confusion with what Delta had provided on that, but I got that directly from Owego Hartford and their interpretation of what it is. So that being said, Steve is all right with it. The town would also need to know that there will be times that, because it's not just the one set of railroad tracks, there's also siding right there. And as needed, Steve may be storing cars on that siding. So there is a potential that access could be cut off if he's storing cars, or if there's some activity going on in the park and he's moving freight, there would be, challenges associated with not being able to enter or exit the park while trains are moving. But he said he didn't think that was going to be a major impact, because we're on the end of the line. We're talking about just whatever he's moving related to the gas or the sand that he's storing there in Hartford. So he didn't feel there would be a significant impact, but that the town needs to be aware that potentially there could be that.
And we discussed that possibility Sorry, Leanne. And I'm sure Steve would be amenable to this if we could have a schedule. Like if we know that, you know, I'm not sure how scheduled his operations are, but if we know that there's going to be freight moving on a Saturday or something, then we can restrict the access to the park.
And the other thing,
But wouldn't it, excuse me, wouldn't it make a difference if it was a public access at that point? I'd be more concerned about the cars being parked crossways across the driveway for a length of time, you know, storage cars, not stuff passing through. I mean, anybody can sit and wait for a train to pass through when it goes at a pretty slow clip through there.
Sure.
Because we're right up the road. I mean, they come right up behind us. I'd be more concerned about cars being parked across the driveway. But if you made it a public access, you
Yes,
know,
sir.
then I would think that they would just leave a separation there
Right.
if they were gonna park cars.
Why not just separate them? Exactly.
see what
Wouldn't
happens.
it be?
Many times over the past years, there have been cars parked there. That access has been used by the fire department for an emergency source of water. Anytime there has been cars parked there, he has separated them to clear the access. And I mean, many times that has happened. So I think it's automatically already been done.
So status quo, it's, you know, not gonna be an issue when the train goes by how many times a month? Right now, I mean, even in a busy time, even if it was happening once a day or twice a day going up and back.
One other thing too that I just learned about last year is, and their name escapes me, with the smaller trains that come through. They're like the tiny little trains.
Oh,
that
little
go
hand
through.
cars.
Yeah, and they are all decorated or shaped like different things. We could incorporate that into the park once it's developed and have.
It's
Well, they
just what
stop
you
at
need.
the
You find some way to get her
We could
using
have
that.
them stop in Berkshire too. Give them
There's
more
a club
coffee.
or something, right? There's a club
There
that goes
is.
up through.
I think they go twice a year, yeah.
I gotta get one of
How
those
long is that
cars.
siding?
Yeah, I was gonna ask that question.
How long
How
is it?
long is the sign?
Pretty long. I'm looking at it. It goes, it goes up past that road that's going there.
Deepa?
I don't know what street that
It's
is.
East Berkshire.
Yeah. And it goes all the way down to
Almost
below
to
your,
30.
right below your offices, town offices. So it
So
looks like
mostly,
it's,
mostly above it.
yeah, it's pretty long.
It's been split. When they redid the crossing at East Berkshire Road a year or two ago, they removed the tracks that were part of the siding. So the siding is there, but it's split and it has to be accessed from either the north or the south. It's no longer one continuous.
That wouldn't be an issue, okay.
Yeah, and there's actually cars on the other side of East Berkshire now,
Mhm.
right now.
I think more than anything, Steve just wanted to be sure the town was aware that that possibility exists. That could potentially be.
What's the insurance
Most of the
implication?
stop signs on each side of the tracks, just so that people are stopping and looking.
Yeah,
I
it have to
mean,
be
Steve
signed properly.
usually has somebody that gets off the car
Right.
and checks,
Yeah,
but
it does.
even so, if there were stop signs there.
What's the insurance implications from going from public, private to public? Does anybody know that? I certainly don't.
That's just something we'd have to ask.
Yeah.
Is it Patterson?
Well, Smith Brothers.
Smith Brothers.
That's who we have as well.
Yeah.
I imagine it'd be very much, if anything.
That's my two questions.
So have you started this project already?
Construction wise, no, it's all been planning phases. So actually, we're in the latter part of the planning phases with the designs, and we're starting to get some cost estimates, and we're in the phase now where we're gonna start applying for grants, which is kind of how this issue came up.
So when that little tiny creek turns into a roaring
I was gonna
Right.
say,
river,
that flood.
you're not gonna come to us and go, you guys wrecked my property, because we're gonna say,
No, we're where it's a floodplain, so all the engineering plans are designed.
Okay.
that way. It'll be very similar to Richford's walking path that they built. You know, obviously the costs go up, but, you know, we're considering it a long-term project with long-term funding, so we want to make sure we do it right and not, you know, every 3 years have to do it over.
I got no problem with this.
So none of that encroaches on the right of way of the railroad.
No. Yeah, I would say Delta. I mean, I don't know the right of ways from the tracks personally, but I would
25
imagine.
feet from the center, isn't it?
Yeah,
It varies at different
I mean,
locations.
well, some of
I
it
think it's 25 feet from the center.
depends on where you are. Some of it's 50.
It varies.
Some of it's 100.
It could be my kilns are encroaching.
You
on-
probably are. It would not surprise me. It would not surprise me.
So that was one of the things that we had mentioned, that we would have to look into the, you know, the right of way, what the impact is of the right of way, just confirm. Steve's got the real maps. He can take a look at it and see exactly where the right of way comes with it.
And Delta's done work for us. They would know, right? As you should.
Petzl or Williams were the ones that surveyed it originally, and then they surveyed it again twice for Delta.
Looks like a nice project.
It does. It's a beautiful project. How does the board want to proceed? Do we want to wait to get a couple pieces of information yet? Or do we want to proceed tonight, or what's your recommendations?
I recommend we just go
What do you
forward.
want us to do at this point? Just say that we'll look to make that.
As long as those,
To public.
as long as those conditions are met, then I'm okay with it.
Yeah,
We'll
so as
make it
long as you
public
get that
access.
access done and you can cover the insurance piece.
What say you, lawyer?
Slow walk it.
Good with that?
Yeah, absolutely.
So do we make a formal motion?
I think
I'll
we
make
should.
a formal motion.
I'll second it.
Thank you. All in favor?
All right.
Opposed? Thank you so much.
Wow.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thanks for
That's
coming,
pretty
guys.
easy. I've been going to meetings in Barton for years.
See
I
how
haven't
easy
gotten that
it
far.
You need to come to the right
He's a
people.
bad reputation.
It's gonna be beautiful. So when it's all built, we want to be invited to come see it. Okay?
Probably having all of the plans done.
Joe, when you gonna get a haircut?
Oh, yeah.
It's a real nice schedule. 10 minutes coming off.
We wouldn't have problems with
It's
that.
beautiful.
My new
Very exciting.
My goals to look like Joe.
Stressed out up there?
I'll tell you, it,
You're
I
next.
just can't find time.
All right.
You know how much time it takes to meet me.
Make that look good.
Yeah, right. It's all afternoon.
I'll bring next when I'll bring
Let's go over and see my buddy over at Base.
Sit down.
Yeah, the big kid that's in there.
Okay.
Thanks for
Quick.
joining us. Thanks for
You know,
having me.
I have a team.
Wendy's next. Attention, please.
Good afternoon, everybody. So I reached out to Christine regarding an item that I thought might be worthwhile you guys considering and looking into. She emailed me yesterday, said, hey, can you attend the meeting? So here I am. I don't have anything formally prepared. As you know, we, along with the IDA and Soil and Water Conservation District, worked with you guys to secure some funding after Tropical Storm Lee to do work on Monkey Run, otherwise known as Huntington Creek, where there was a 100-year-old crib dam that needed to be removed because it had been damaged significantly and was causing issues in the stream. As a result of that, we did some work through an emergency watershed protection funding through NRCS, and we secured the work, completed it. We put in some grade control structures, and also we did some rock veins and some cross veins to keep the stream within its banks and try to address the fact that we had such a grade change from that dam being removed. As you know, we've been experiencing a lot of flash flooding events. In October of last year, we actually had a flooding event that was declared a disaster. And we periodically go out and check the site for you guys, just to make sure our projects that we've been involved in are still being maintained and kept up to speed and are still working effectively. And during that time, we realized that there has been some damage to the site. So one of the options I have to bring to your guys' attention is that FEMA offers a public assistance opportunity after disasters have been declared. And that's usually a cost share program of 75-25. FEMA will cover 25%, and then the local share is 25% to do the repairs for whatever's needed. It's possible,
FEMA's 75.
but yeah, did I say 25?
So FEMA's 75%.
75, local share is 25. In this event, there's no state buy-in. Sometimes there is, so it would be the full 25% for the local share. So one of the things I wanted to see if you guys were interested in pursuing we currently have been doing work and have several sites identified where we're going to proceed with a public assistance funding application. We submitted our paperwork and we had thought we would include Monkey Run, but I had my recovery assistance meeting with FEMA Monday, and they said, if you don't own the project, you can't submit it. So you guys own the project. So the catch is we're after the deadline of the submittal. So what they recommended me to do was reach out to you, see if you were open to the idea of putting the request in. We would ask for, basically put a letter together saying there was extenuating circumstances, you weren't aware of the funding, you weren't aware of the damage. We thought I was going to handle the damage and secure the funding to implement the work. That's okay. And instead, when I had my meeting with FEMA and was told that couldn't happen, we're now trying to see if the IDA can become an applicant under this disaster. And we'll wait to see if you guys agree to move forward with that. We'll wait to see if they approve it. If they do, then we would proceed with securing funding to implement through a contract and have ultimately a contractor do the work. We're looking at probably a cost estimate between $20,000 to $25,000 to have the work done. So around $6,000 to $7,000 would be coming out of the IDA's pocket to do the required maintenance. So I'm here to see if you guys are interested in that. I think you have done, I don't know, I don't have the history. I don't know if you guys have ever been an applicant to public disasters before.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. It's kind of a pain in the butt process, to be honest, but I think you can get through it with one project on the docket, and I'd be more than willing to assist Christine through that process. So I just thought it was an opportunity to get some funding to help do the maintenance that's required at the site to start with. So I don't know, FEMA and the state said they've been very strict on people past the deadline. So it's an opportunity to see if we can get some funding. If not, then we might wait to the next disaster and we would try it all over again, would be my recommendation, or we look for some funding in the meantime to address it.
What has happened up there?
So essentially, I have a few pictures. So we have, it's a little hard to see, but we have one section where we did a grade control. So it's just a matter of, we put some stone in to change the elevation from downstream to upstream. And basically it's eroding around that grade control structure and is moving some of the stones downstream. And then on the backside, we also had to put in a rock chute to help stabilize some of the sediment for the debris basin that was there, and some of that has moved as well. So it's a matter of replacing and maybe extending a little bit of additional work to address the erosion around the edge so we get the flow back to the center of our grade control and then stabilize the bed of the stream.
So this piece is up where the dam, near where the dam was?
That one's actually, you can see that grade control structure right from the bridge if you're driving by.
That's up.
Yep. The rock chute is on the backside, and that is actually up where the dam itself was.
Is the original rock on fabric or just on soil?
No, it's on fabric. It was designed originally by NRCS, the Natural Resource Conservation Service, and they we hired a local contractor. You guys hired Jeff Monson to do the work, and at that time that was a 75-25 cost share program as well. You guys, as a result of receiving that funding, agreed to be a sponsor, which meant that you would have operation and maintenance for the lifespan of the practice, which is about 10 years. So you're getting on the cusp of that, but I still think we see these projects last a lot longer if we can maintain them and keep them in place. So it's worthwhile to try to do the work to address it.
It's right along Carmichael, right?
Yeah, yep. That's where we got access from it the last time.
One's down at the school.
Yeah. We tried to sell the ravine, but
Nobody
wanted it.
That's what I was saying.
We got this great floodplain. So, yeah.
It would look so cool with a bridge over it.
I would love to see the IDA support this as the applicant. But how does everybody else feel?
we didn't even know there was a dam up there when
We got it.
apparently it fed the railroad. It was a well dam that fed Wego for the railroad of some sort.
Yeah, it's part of the railroad property.
So this isn't, we're not suggesting that this is some sort of permanent fix. It's just a fix until we have our next event.
More than likely. Right now, we just need to
Potentially.
apply.
Right.
My estimation, we need to try to apply. If it
Well,
doesn't work,
That's what I think, because if we don't do anything, it's just gonna get worse, so we should do something, and
I
if we
think
can do
so,
something
too.
now, we should do it, that's what I think.
You gotta tell Jeff to use bigger rocks.
Do I have a motion to support this?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Well,
We
you didn't
probably
have
should have
anything to
waited
do
for
for
Marty.
tomorrow, you got something?
I already wrote the letter. So.
You're good.
I didn't send it, but I wrote it.
And
But
you threw yourself under the bus?
I did. I said that we thought we
Great
could be
job.
the applicant, and unfortunately, I was there erroneous in my thoughts, and I don't take it against the idea. So,
We'd be glad to help.
worst case scenario though is if they say no to you, I can still be the applicant. So that'll be my next course of action, is that we would do it on your behalf, but I would look for you guys to help me cover the 25% local
Right.
match. So we'll try this. If I get shut down, I'll try another way, and we'll see. I'll keep you informed and see where you can do it.
Thank you so much. for coming.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Wendy.
And then the next one will be that site on Blodgett.
Boy,
Yeah,
all kinds
we
of
do
good
need to,
stuff
we
here
need to
tonight.
talk about that.
So
Can you
excited.
just touch on that briefly and where that stands, and do you have any sense for what needs to happen out there?
We would have to do some survey work for scope of work and what, but if you guys are concerned about it, it's getting closer to the railroad bed itself. I would consider we could look to secure some WQIP funding this spring, summer, and see if we could get a project implemented through that. Again, that's a 75-25 cost share. But that's the avenue I would take. If that's something you're interested in doing, we can pursue starting to look at some possible design scenarios and costs.
We need to do something.
Yep, it's gonna be in the railroad's gonna be in the creek if we don't do something pretty soon.
And I would recommend that project for the public assistance dollars, but they won't mitigate because you didn't actually have damages to your actual railroad. So I don't think they'll only, emergency protection would only take us to a 5-year storm event, and it wouldn't be significant enough to help anything there.
So if you're doing WQIP, is that through the CFA process then? And
Yep.
so we'd be looking at a CFA application. Again, you would be the applicant, or who would be the applicant in it?
Either way, we could do it, or you guys could do it, whatever your preference is. Both are eligible entities as far as I know. I know I am, so I am assuming you would be as well. Okay. All right, thanks.
Thanks, Wendy.
Next, minutes, correct? Do I have a motion to approve the minutes from last month?
I move to approve.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Let's move on to the financials.
Okay, so on the transaction detail, it's just a few significant things I'd like to point out for last month. We made the second payment to Procon for the VNS water sewer extension. There's just a slight balance of work left to do in the spring for the final payment. Minimal. You can see the remainder of the pilot payments coming in that did not come in January. FedEx, Crestwood, Gateway, and Crown Cook and Steel. And at the very bottom, checks 6432, 6433 are the pilot disbursements going out, as well as the Crown Cork and Seal agency fee of $42,000 came in. And right above that, the $300,000 transfer was just the Crown Cork and Seal pilot going from the general checking that they wired it into over to the Crown Cork and Seal pilot account. And Kathy, if you could please bring up off the agenda, there's the pilot disbursement. Just created a quick report to show you the amount of disbursements to all the taxing entities for the town county that are included in those checks at the bottom of the detail. This was just really wanted today.
Well, maybe you will.
And maybe I won't.
There it is.
So just a quick overview for you all to see. what disbursements being made for what companies. If there are no questions on that, we can proceed.
Okay. I guess there's not, that's a very nice thing. Thank you for doing that.
Whatever.
Do I have a motion to acknowledge the financials, please? Second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. We have to wait for Leanne.
We can,
Well, unless you want to start with some project updates. You want to do that?
yeah, absolutely. So Wego Gardens 2, Suez has approved the water extension plans, and they're just working through the details for the bidding process. We're hoping that bid for the water tank will go out soon. Onto agriculture value chain study. Megan's working on an application to USDA for funding. As approved in the January meeting, IDA will be the official applicant for this funding. The application requires a formal resolution, so we've compiled the resolution attached here. And I will have Marty sign that tomorrow, and that will be submitted along with the application.
I think we should probably vote on that resolution, correct? Do I have a motion to approve the resolution for the agricultural project?
So moved.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Oh, sorry.
No.
I'm trying to read. I'm like.
You don't want to do this,
I think we should-
Eric?
I think we should probably read it before we pass it. That's a thought. Just a thought.
Well, pretty much says everything that Christine just talked about, so,
Yeah, I generally read it before I vote on it. Thank you.
thank you. Do you want to switch back and forth, or should we wait, should we go back to Leanne?
I can finish this out. It's very brief.
Okay.
For the broadband study, we submitted an application to ESD for half of that cost. We're waiting to hear for approval, but that funding is for $36,500. And regarding live streaming, I just wanted to update everyone. I spoke with IT, and they recommended that due to storage capacity, we set up a YouTube channel to host the archives of our meetings going forward for the 5-year requirement. So we will be doing that within the next month and starting the archive.
Okay.
and Put the link on the
So
IDA website.
I'm just like the kids now. This is good.
Yeah.
Well, what's that?
We're
It
getting on
will
board.
cost nothing, no cost.
That's great, thank
Great.
you. So Leanne, we're going
Um,
back to you.
All right, so quickly, an update on what's happening out of ED&P. We are working on the 2020 census complete count. Elaine Jardine will be here at the April meeting to give a brief presentation on the census and why it's important for people to participate. We have been working on the DRI project. So Brittany has created this nice spreadsheet. You want to take a look at all those projects that are all those projects that are specifically under the purview of the IDA, the facade revitalization and business development projects. And you can see she's done a really good job of tracking the status of everything. So they're moving along. We're getting to the point where RFPs are being issued. Next we'll be selecting whoever responds, and moving through. You can see she's got it nicely laid out here, everything that has to happen so we get to project closeout. So if you have any questions on any of these as you go along, please let us know.
What is the cost of flood insurance moving forward?
What is the due to cost?
What is something like that, the flood insurance on a facility like that? Kind of curious.
I
So
do not know the answer to that.
we did find out that it can vary significantly just when two properties next to each other for different reasons. So we are asking every property owner to obtain that flood insurance and provide it to us.
It's gonna vary based on the amount they want, any claim history.
Mhm.
And are you requiring NFIP policies, or are you allowing these people to go out and get private quotes as well?
I'm not familiar with NFI.
That's FEMA's program.
I believe we're just still on to obtain any quotes from any provider.
Because it's becoming more and more prevalent, and people are seeking out private insurance.
Isn't even the private flood insurance backstopped by FEMA somehow?
Not that I understand, but you want to make sure that it's backed by, Joe can probably speak better to this than I can, but it's backed by, New York's insurance.
Then it's at least authorized insurance to be sold.
Right, because we're starting to see more and more people seek that out, because the subsidies are all burning off, especially on commercial properties. People are seeing 20 to 25% premium increases every year. So on a property like Severs, that's right in the middle of a flood zone, a $150,000 policy could easily cost them $5,000-6,000 a year.
Yep.
Policies, not gonna scratch the surface.
And that's the issue. You can do what you can in regards to raising your deductibles from 5,000 to 10,000 and northward, but generally those changes in regards to premium. Not significant.
Oh, that's really. I know this is a dumb question, but, early antique center, that's really,
Yes.
is that for the sign, or is that for? He's looking at revising his scope of work right now, so. Somebody just asked me about the painting today. Yeah, so he's revising his scope. Are you part of that meeting?
He intends to still redo that. Last day.
Yes, Christine is sitting in on those things. Brittany and Megan and Christine are meeting with each of the project owners, so we're involved with everything going on there.
This is great.
Okay, so I have another question.
Yep.
Former tire trails, is that,
So we've already gotten the okay to transfer that to the new owner. So
and
he's
then,
already approved it.
and so the facade improvements would be doing structural?
Again, I think they're looking at the scope on that to see if they want to do the same as what Sweeney's had originally proposed. So they're looking at
Oh,
scope
okay.
on that.
So they can revise? Maybe,
It would have to be approved by the state, but
okay.
any revisions. So team's doing a really great job on that. On the land bank, there have been 3 offers received for purchase of properties and 1 offer being negotiated right now. So we'll see some activity on those properties that the land bank obtained by way of the county, and now they've been either demolished or we're working on rehabbing 1 property, and then they'll be sold, and that money will come back to the land bank, and we'll be able to continue what we're doing. We're in phase 2 of our workforce pipeline implementation strategy. In-person interviews are beginning. We're working in close partnership with the Weequahic School and Waverly Central School. Meeting tomorrow, as a matter of fact, to talk through some of that. So we're very pleased to have that partnership in place.
Back up, interviews for what?
Discussions on workforce pipeline issues, plans, strategies.
Oh, just, okay, I
yeah.
thought interviews, meaning someone to manage it.
No,
Okay,
talking with our partners.
Gotcha.
Gathering information. On ag, the annual inclusion enrollment, we're looking to add 110 acres in the town of North Valley. County will be acting on that. Food Hub, we had a really great meeting with Delivered Fresh. This was the virtual Food Hub idea. Engelbert's partnered with Delivered Fresh. We had a meeting at their facility on the 11th. There are over 20 producers in attendance. It was very well received, and we're continuing to move that discussion forward and how we can bring that service to our residents and our producers. Already talked about the ag value chain study. There were 6 239 reviews and planning. One of particular interest would be in the town of Owego, looking at rezoning a property that right now is residential B, and rezoning it to residential C, which would allow for future development of multifamily apartments in the town of Owego. There are literally no properties that we're able to do this on right now, so hopefully we'll be able to assist in making that change happen. The REAP Code Enforcement Shared Services Feasibility Study draft baseline report has been completed. So we'll be starting to see some information come out on that. Grants, we have identified 9 potential, 8 are pending that have been submitted and are pending, 17 approved that we're assisting with, for a total of 34 grants plus the DR grants. So at this time right now, our office is involved with 51 grants, whether it be scoping them out or getting them submitted or helping to administer them. So we are a little busy right now.
Lots of paperwork.
And the rest we'll talk about later.
Gosh, that's great. Thanks, Jean.
Yep.
So as Leanne mentioned, we have in Lounsbury 3 property owners would like to update their zoning from ag to industrial development. We've worked with Elaine to fill out the phase 1 full environmental assessment form, which I actually have with me, and it would require, well, we're asking IDA to be the applicant for this zone change request for simplicity, rather than having 3 owners needing to respond to questions. IDA would be the applicant. If that is agreeable, we would request that I obtain signature from Jen on this form before we submit it.
Do we know what properties they are?
Yes, Engelbert, Lounsbury, and Boyle. Right along the highway.
You have a map.
Of a map of it.
I think I said Engelbert, Lounsbury is the slow strip. Okay.
The skinny little one, and then Boyle is the one that goes back and then up the hill.
Oh, right, up on the hill. Okay, I remember that. When we dreamed about it before.
Here we go.
You have a map of it?
Yeah, sure. This one? Yeah. Now,
I don't see the-
they are,
That was in
I can
email.
show you, I think they're here.
The red,
Well, where's the?
the site of interest is outlined in red there.
Oh,
Sites of interest. The rest of the rest is for another discussion.
You just need a signature on that? Okay.
Joe's looked at it. Did you have any comments on it, Joe?
No, I mean, it's fine.
So you're taking this to the town, is that what's going on?
Yeah, so ultimately the town has the action on it.
Okay, so Boyles don't have anything to say about
No, they all do. They've all agreed. They've all provided
Boyles
the
have?
requests. Yep.
Oh.
Everybody's provided their request to the town code enforcement officer that they would like to pursue this. And so Bob Hoosby felt that it would be better if there were one, rather than trying to deal with the 3 entities, there were one entity to act as the sponsor of the full environmental assessment form. And that will go to the town, the ZBA, and the county planning board for 239 review, and then ultimately back to the town, we'll make the determination.
Great.
So does that require a motion for a signature on it?
I'll make that
Oh, it
motion.
does.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Got hold of the Boyles?
Yes. I had looked
I
with her.
staked them out.
isn't she the lady that was in Germany or something?
She's in Scotland.
Okay.
She is a niece of Mrs. Mills who lives 3 houses down from me.
Oh.
So I stopped in and then had a chat while she was here.
Nice.
She comes once a year. So I stopped in and we had a little chat.
Lease program?
Well, actually
Yeah,
increases
thank
the
you.
value of the property a little
Oh,
bit.
yeah.
Yeah, it does.
And she's pretty landlocked. So you can't get to her. So
So that, but that red outline is the cumulative properties, not each property. It shows it's.
So Steve is very skinny, right?
So
Yeah.
this is Engelbert. This is Lounsbury.
Oh, okay,
And this is
Oh,
okay, so that's what okay, that makes more sense. Yeah, Lounsbury's is skinny little.
Yeah, he was the one who
Right.
had the hardest time.
So what would, how did that,
Sounds great.
Steve,
what would you do with it?
well,
Own
it's
it,
part of the original,
own it,
part of the original
Yeah.
farm.
own it,
Oh.
and tell everybody to leave me
Reluctant to
alone. I know
give it up.
Steve, that's how he's gonna be.
Mine. You can't build anything right away.
You're done with that one, see.
Moving on to the lease program.
Okay. So EDMP suggested that we put in place a equipment loan program using the RBEC funds. They identified an unmet need with some of the smaller businesses needing to either maintain or expand their operations, and hoping that this program would assist in that. So we're working through it. It was suggested that we do a 1% interest rate, and we've been having some discussion with the loan committee and asked Joe to look into.
Yeah, I think you can do it, and I don't think that the presumptive interest rate applies to these transactions. There seems to be some difference of opinion about, but the regs that I looked at, the issue is, you see, or not the issue, but I think the defining thing is that we're not for profit. So if I was giving this money to my cousin and saying, hey, you don't have to pay me any interest, I'm avoiding a tax implication, but there's no implication for us. So I don't think it matters, based upon who we are.
I would agree.
And I think
Makes- that
did
makes
Jan
sense.
offer the same opinion?
She did.
Ralph, I guess we had talked, Ralph was a little concerned about it, but.
Well, it's all within zero, right?
Pardon?
Actually, Enciro said they don't believe that USDA funds are subject to IRS regs, that we would just need to consult with the USDA regulations.
But again, the question is, I think, does it have a tax implication? If it doesn't have an implication for anybody, we're not paying income tax.
Right. So we'll continue to move that through forward through the loan committee and see where it goes.
We received a FOIL request from the Zockling Group in Rochester, requesting copies of any energy pilots that we have entered into, so I've provided those.
Couldn't County get the same one?
We did, but we don't have any projects. We've never done an energy project.
Aren't they?
But we have one, we're involved in that wind farm.
Lucky you.
Yeah, right.
Isn't that information on the website?
It is.
Be careful, Cuomo might be watching.
Can't you send them back an email and say, check the website?
Well,
Good. You should just send a pilot agreement, just for simplicity's sake. I mean, there's no big deal. If there's something that took a lot of
Wasn't this the one
time.
who was asking for anything back to 1980?
no,
They got them.
We have only
Issues.
one, there was one pilot that was applicable to what they were looking for, so she just sent it to them.
That's Spencer.
That's your favorite. Sometimes it's easier just to.
Make people go away.
I bet.
Familiar with that.
Moving right along.
What do you want to hear?
so just a railroad insurance update. The railroad committee advised to renew the policy, but obtain quotes early next year in advance as it increased from 19,284 to 24,905 since last year. So it's about a 23% increase, so we'll shop around next year.
I don't know if I probably kept that one between the two of us, but I'm not real fond of insurance companies that send you a renewal the day before you need to renew it, and then people have to make decisions, so I take as much offense as I can without getting cranky right now with that process.
Do we need a motion to approve that renewal? I think we should.
I don't think it's a regular course of business.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I would say that I want to see at least 3 quotes in front of us next year,
time.
3 months in advance.
Yeah, that was
No more of this, we need your decision today. That is, just in my opinion, the insurance company that just pulled that little stunt is gonna have to work real hard for our business next year.
That's what I think too.
Let's remember that.
I'm offended by it.
Let's
Well,
put it on our calendar to do
yeah,
that.
the renewal due when?
It was due
Last
Friday.
Okay.
They
So-
sent us
so
a
the-
message on what, Wednesday or?
Do we need something the
2
first
days.
of January
2 days.
saying we need to be out pricing the insurance policy?
Right.
I put it on for just November 1st. So
Okay, that's fine.
Good.
It gets
Yeah.
us started. We've had this argument before.
Not the first time.
The insurance business is
Well, I'm glad I haven't.
it's getting tougher though. I mean, I just
Will you
gotta
still
think
have-
deal about
Well, it's gonna go up, I guarantee you.
You think?
Yeah.
Yep.
So, EDMP has requested IDA be the applicant to USDA for $250,000 towards the New York Main Street funding. It would require 0 match and would add to the $250,000 that they've already obtained and increase the amount of work that can be done there. If you'd like, we have target map and a list of the target properties to look over.
Which group is this?
So, my office has identified the potential of additional grant funding that goes untapped every year. So there is a set aside, because of our REAP designation, there's a set aside that will go specifically to either Tioga County or Sullivan County, the two entities in New York State that have access to this REAP designated money. $504,000 in one and 30-some thousand dollars in these two accounts. Often, generally what happens is that money gets turned back in because it doesn't get, nobody asked for it. Last year, Sullivan County asked for about 100,000. So we said, well, we're not gonna let that money go away this year.
Okay.
So we're looking to access that for not only the ag value chain, is what we're looking to access on that account for. And then we thought, we'd like to supplement the Main Street activity. We got 250,000 through the CFA for Main Street last year for North Avenue. We had asked for 500, we got 250, so we thought if we could bump that back up to 500,000, we can make a bigger impact besides on North Avenue.
And this is USDA money.
USDA money, and we can use the CFA money as match on it, so it's like a no-brainer. I mean, they may say no, but you never know. Yes.
So is the red, what is the red?
Those
Can't
are the New York Main Street properties.
And then the other ones, municipal.
So, yeah, so the green is grass, the blue is municipal, the dark gray are parking lots.
Oh, okay.
The Blues Fire Station, right?
Mhm.
Yep.
How long until you'd hear back, do you think?
Let's see, the application is due March 31st, and they make a pretty quick turnaround on that. I don't know exactly, but it's not a year. Pretty
Um,
quick.
These owners know you're looking for more
No.
money? They don't? 'Cause
No.
I know some of them have been pretty discouraged in regards to the smaller pot and
Yeah.
are questioning whether they're gonna move forward, so that might.
Yeah, we haven't, because number one, we didn't know if the IDA would agree to doing it, and number two, you don't want to put it out
Don't
there.
get
and
out
I
there.
gotta-
Right, right, but I mean, I certainly have no problem with it, but I would say, for people that are questioning, you might wanna, if other people agree, might wanna do a little reach out, right? 'Cause like I said, I know some people are discouraged based on how small the pot is that they're all competing for now.
We can do that. Can't make any promises though.
Right, right.
And feel free if you're talking with any of your people. let them
Yeah,
know
yeah,
we're-
let them know.
We're continuing to look for additional funds.
So what do you need for this?
We need a resolution again, just like you passed for the ag value chain, to say that the IDA can be the applicants on it. I think you wrote one, didn't you, Christine?
did.
But there's no cost to.
No
Yeah.
cost.
Did we write one for this one?
You wrote one for.
But this could be
the-
the same.
But she took
Ag.
what you wrote for the ag and modified it for
Oh,
this.
did you? Okay.
So
So,
if you have it,
Yep.
who would
Next
do,
year.
He'll
That's what
still
the
charge
law
us,
is all
he'll still
about.
charge us for his work anyway.
So who administers the grant then? Is
We'd administer it.
we meaning which it may we?
Um,
This we or,
EDP?
or I mean.
EDMP, because it would just work in partnership with the Main Street
It'd
grant
be
that's already
easier.
going. It would just, we did it all together, it would make more sense. Not to say we wouldn't be looking to Christine for help throughout the process.
Right, as far as.
So there's the
Give you-
reso.
Right.
Okay. Do you wanna,
So I guess my thing of this is you're gonna tie this to the original 250 that you already have there. But you're not looking, you can't tie this to any other communities in Tioga County. You can only go with this grant. Is that what we're saying?
we felt our best opportunity was tying it to this existing grant. Next year, should we do something in Waverly?
Not just Waverly, you know what I mean? But there's, you know what I mean? That's, there just seems to be a lot of money sitting in one spot right now.
We hear it all the time.
Well, that's true. They just saw the numbers.
So there wouldn't be a match on these dollars?
We would structure it the same as
As Main Street.
Main Street grant.
Okay.
There would be no,
So in essence, you'd be doing double duty, but basically mirror the two, so.
that's correct.
How about a motion to approve the resolution?
So moved.
Thank you. Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
So the audit report from Zero is issued. The audit committee and I have all reviewed it and approved it. So the final report is forthcoming and we will have it well in time to complete Harris by the end of the month. Onto the loan committee, this ties into the DRI. The DRI TCIDA administers grants. They require flood insurance during the project construction period for the properties in the 100-year floodplain, and the loan committee recommended not requiring it thereafter, but we will require them to obtain quotes and provide an acknowledgement form stating that IDA encourages them to obtain it and it's of their own.
During construction period.
Yes,
Yeah.
and that thereafter it's up to them, but we
Right.
did encourage it at least. And also, if we need to recapture any funds, the loan committee's recommended that we roll that into the facade improvement loan program.
The what?
The facade improvement loan
Okay.
program, and we will,
Ours.
yes, ours.
Someone we had that we rotated before.
Not just the bill.
Because we have different.
That's the one that's a revolving one though. The money's sitting there, we loan it out and he gets back and we do it again.
Yeah.
Something like that.
So we have a lot of balls in the air. I just have to make sure I know which one it is.
Right.
So we'll submit an updated administrative plan asking them to authorize that.
Open the door back up.
I don't know. Big girl's out there vacuuming
Jenny shut the- Jenny shut the door. He got out.
Well, there was a group now, but now there's vacuuming.
Yeah, they were loud. Now they're gonna be loud again.
Well, that's okay.
That's right, I'll go out there and straighten their ass out.
You're gonna say somebody can, either Marty or
That's
you.
in my
There we
purview.
go. Open the pan.
I don't care.
I had a feeling.
Yep, I'm just sitting here going,
What's next?
Pilot update. So BNS has reported $603,813.92 out of their allowable sales tax exemption amount. They're requesting an increased amount and an extension through
Take your time off, dude.
8/31.
so did you do we need a reso on this or just a motion? We need a reso on it? So do we have a
But we
reso on it?
do, I think we've done it, I did it as 2 resolutions.
Oh, 2 separate? Okay,
Are they operational over there?
they are.
Yeah.
They're dipping.
Yeah.
So what's the increase
Getting ramped up.
due to?
Just cost overruns that what they weren't anticipating, you know, how a project doesn't always come in as you're anticipating.
You'll learn
It's gonna
about
go a
that
little-
soon.
It's gonna go a little longer than they thought because of the weather, and they're gonna have to go in, they have to do some planting and all that, so. It's probably not gonna reach this level, but they didn't wanna have to come back and ask again if it
Well, it makes sense, I just wanted to know. if it
The
was some big
resolution,
equipment they put in there, it was different, but.
the resolution is to increase the exemption from 671, 200 to 771. So it's basically 99.
So,
Extends it by 4 months.
and extend the,
And there's a second resolution to extend it to August 31st, 2020. You can vote on both resolutions together.
That sounds great.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
So Best Buy has reported $399 to $26.50 out of their allowable amount, which is great. And Spencer Tioga Solar has submitted their final report, and along with it, a request letter authorizing their overage.
That's pretty close, though.
$24,000 change.
and did you have a resolution on that one?
Motion made.
Yes. The resolution approving increasing the exemption from 672,986 to 697,137.7.
How about a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
My physics teacher would have said approximately.
Approximately.
After he went out 17 decimals.
And agency fee update, Tioga Downs has paid their installments in full. They are paying annually for their garage days, and Crown Cork and Seal just has 4 installments remaining.
I have a motion to move to executive session.
Gotta close the door again, sorry, guys.
Back to the.
Short time, buddy, short time.
I got a feeling we're gonna all cut a little more weight than maybe we
Okay,
used
give
to.
me a minute. Jenny, okay.
Ain't gonna be nothing but 5 pounds.
I wanna
They
make
put
sure
the-
we're shut
They
down.
put out
When
a
we go
big
there.
section,
Okay,
former section
absolutely.
change, so my name's down there, 119.
Okay, so let's say stop sharing.
Couple of years ago.
Marty, you find this interesting? I came across this map. Wow.
Wow.
And
I'm taking Joe's share next time.
Oh, Joe, that's a
that's
good seat.
nice.
I could actually lean that and be out of the stove. Yeah. No, I can't hear it in there. Oh, there's the angle right there.
So this is showing, we're talking about at Coleman Street.
Mhm.
Is that one of your old original maps?
Yeah.
Cool.
We're gonna do this one. We're gonna